on the program this morning. It's about time for us to shift our discussions to the entertainment industry in Nigeria. And on the show this morning, we're joined by a comedian, Steve. And it's off the back of some developments. Steve, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. Yes, same to you, brother.
Now, it's important to highlight how marketable the Nigerian entertainment industry is. The talents we have are almost second to none on a global stage. But the developments this morning that have continued to ask the question of how organized the industry is to generate that global appeal. And with some major players like Netflix, they're now sections of the news reporting that Netflix Nigeria is looking to exit the country. It's been blamed on some of the sharp practices by producers. But whilst we look to applaud the journey so far, what's your perspective of this development?
Yeah, Nigeria is one of the biggest markets when it comes to entertainment in Africa. And we have so much talent, talent in our country. And the world that we live in today is a world of content creation and all that. So, and of course, Netflix Nigeria is one of the biggest platforms that people can harness, you understand, to get their content to the world globally. You know, so I don't think that this development right now is something that is suitable for talented individuals, both musicians, actors, comedians, and what have you. If going by what you said, the information that we're getting now, if that happens, it's going to give a very big blow to the industry and to content creators in Nigeria. So I just feel that our government should do more by creating policies that will help, you know, to make our country, our entertainment space to be comfortable for some of these channels that we have to project what we're doing.
Now, Mr. Steve, you are a comedian.
Yeah.
And sometimes when people think comedy, they think skits. Most times they think skits. And gone are the days when people think comedy, they think, oh, Night of 1,000 Laugh, a comedy show, comedian, stand-up comedian on stage. That still happens. But comedians like yourself are rather tilting more towards the skit aspect of it. Is this the new trend? Is this where the money is? Or are we seeing a neglect of the stage act in the comedy world?
Okay, so basically I'm going to tell you something now. Right. There's difference between stand-up comedy and skit making. All right. You can be a very funny skit maker, but sometimes you're not a stand-up comedian. All right. Everyone is tilting towards skit industry because that's where most of the money is right now, content creation. All right. So, but that does not mean that one that is a skit maker is automatically a comedian. You know, you can stand before the camera and do anything you want to do that you feel is funny, and people can watch it and they will say,
laugh and then get engagement.
Exactly, and get engagement, and then they will laugh. But when you come on stage, it's a whole different game entirely. All right, when you stand before the audience, you should be able to be a good storyteller. Every comedian actually is a good storyteller, right? You know, so you should be able to have a story to tell to engage the audience, and then that makes you a stand-up comedian. All right. So skit making is about the money. There's more money there. That industry is rising very fast and making a lot of
where do you fall on that? Are you strictly a stand-up comedian, or are you also involved in skit making?
All right,
or do you do both?
Okay, let me put it to you now. Every comedian is a good actor. Every comedian should be a good actor, actually. Okay. You know, when you look at it that way. So, but I basically I'm a stand-up comedian. You know, people have told me get into skit and all that. We're still trying to push into that, but it takes a lot actually to do skits. It takes a lot when you consider not just your talent. Now, when you stand-up comedian, it's about you and your talent.
Right? And it's also about relating with the audience and ensuring you know, vibe with them.
Yes, but skit making has all the skills that you need to have. And by the time you keep employing people, you know, today, most of the guys are doing very well in the skit industry. Most of them, they actually employ editors. They actually employ guys that are good on the camera. You know,
They have like a whole production
team that they pay heavily. Do you understand? Just to be able to sustain them. So when you're getting into that skit industry, you should be able to know that you're getting into something serious. All right. That doesn't mean that stand-up comedy is not a serious business. Everyone is serious business. But skit now, the kind of money is raking in. Everybody tends to come up to do something, you know, in that direction.
Okay, Bito.
Yeah.
Now, it's interesting for you to draw the dichotomy between stand-up performances and skit makings, especially with the coming on board of social media platforms and streaming platforms, much like Netflix. But the challenge down here is the comedy world as a whole evolving in line with what was borrowed from those who started before us and made it a global appeal.
Yeah.
Much like we have foreign comedians outside the country. There's always the debates between Kevin Hart and the likes of who is funnier, who is an actual comedian, who steals jokes and who does not.
Yeah.
Many criticize Steve Harvey in that line as well. Now, one culture that is fast gaining on Nigerian comedians is comedy clubs.
Okay.
I don't know if it's 18 in the FCT, but in Lagos, it's been so much of a thing now to have comedy clubs. What's your take on this development?
Okay. Okay. Let me put it this way, right? The kind of comedy clubs that we have in Nigeria, if you want to look at the standard of what a comedy club should look like, I don't think that we've been able to come to that level
Of having a comedy
of
club.
having a
Many
comedy
would
club.
disagree, especially the Lagos crowd.
No. See,
you
let me
have,
tell
you
you.
have them doing comedy for 5 hours straight, and they make it a weekly thing.
Yeah, I
and
know.
They have sponsorship.
Yeah, I know. But the environment, the atmosphere, all right? You can call it a comedy club, or it's a place where people come to drink. You know, people just want to come and... A comedy club, a typical comedy club, if you've seen it outside the country, like the Western world, where we copy most of the things that we do, the setting is not a place where you come to drink, you get spirits, you get all the stuff around just to keep you high and bubbling and all that. Is a typical setup where people just come, sit down, and they want to laugh. That's what a comedy club should look like. But today we call it comedy club in Nigeria, but basically what we have is a lounge that has a good setting where people could just sit down and then have a little stage where somebody could stand and perform.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So it's a whole different...
Are there any in Abuja that you know?
Yeah, of course we have.
So you're practically telling us the Abuja situation. Like in Abuja here, there's probably no infrastructure built for that purpose.
Yeah,
At this point,
basically.
do you think it's government or it's public partnership that could cater for such exclusive clubs like you're looking for?
No. The government doesn't have... I mean, it's something we can do. It's something that private individuals can do. So when you're building a relaxation sports, you should be able to carve out somewhere where people can actually sit down, just sit down. The setting alone will make them relaxed. You understand? Sit down and be ready to laugh. So it's going to be comedy back to back. You understand?
Lately, we have been seeing a fusion of both comedy, music, stage performances, and all. Take, for instance, Sabinus, Mr. Funny. You would find Sabinus doing his skits, going for shows in London, and then in music videos, he's featured.
Yeah.
Is the entertainment industry in total coming into this sort of fusion ball where all forms of art and craft and talent can be fused together to create something explosive? Considering the fact that it wasn't like this in the past, it hasn't always been like this. Is this a good light for the Nigerian entertainment industry?
It is. Everything that happens, both entertainment, everything business that happens, is all about collaboration. It's all about collaboration. So I think that the music industry, the guys that we have in the music industry, they've been able to know that these guys now have a level of influence. Do you understand? So let's bring them into our music videos. Do you understand? With the level of influence and followership
that they have.
Yeah, that they have, we'll be able also to market our music. So I think that the Nigerian entertainment space is coming to that level where this collaborative efforts is yielding a lot. Now, for instance, Kiss Daniel, when he released one of his songs, I think 2 years ago or last year, all the promotional videos that he did, he was bringing in comedians and skit makers.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, he brought in Sabinos, brought in Shaggy, brought him a lot of them to just do stuff with him and all that. So it tells you that, you know, if we can understand that in the industry as entertainers, we will go far. Now check comedians that do shows. When AY started, when he started, one of the things that really boosted his comedy show, AY Live, was the fact that he brought in musicians, he brought in actors. Even though they were not on stage, he just brought them, you know, people see them around. Oh, okay, this guy, you know, so when I go to AY Live, I'll be able to sight from Noir. I'll be able to meet, you know. So that's collaboration actually boosted his show, the AY Live show, all right? So I think the music industry is also keen into that, to know that at least, you know, with collaboration, we can be able to market our music to a great extent.
How much support are you getting, say, from, firstly, do you have like a union or a group for comedians nationally in the country?
I won't say I won't say that with the much I know, but I think Alibaba was trying to do something like that. But you won't actually call it an association or a body. You know,
he had a directory. He registered and they had contact bases. And
he used his influence as someone that is influential in the industry to say, okay, let me put this together. So it wasn't like a registered body, you know, that everybody has to fall into. All right, there are a lot of people that did not fall into that directorate. I saw that stuff a couple of years ago, you know. But I think in Abuja, in a couple of states, at the state level, you know, we have bodies. Like in Abuja here, I'm the secretary of the Abuja Body of Comedians. All right. So we have in
ABC.
Delta State, ABC. So we have in Delta State, we have in a couple of states like that. But nationally, I don't think that we have an umbrella that's covering comedy industry.
And how much support is ABC getting from, like you mentioned, you said something about government policies to enhance the entertainment industry and support talents and all. How much support have you gotten as an organization from any government agency that has to do with the entertainment or creative industry in the country?
Yeah, I think basically recently under the office of the vice president, we have the creative and economic department, kind of, you know, they are into the creative arts. And they have the special advisor. They have a special advisor in that office. It's called the Office of the Special Advisor to the Vice President on creative economy. All right, so the guy is doing a lot. Fego is his name. He's doing a lot. He's doing a lot because there's a particular fund that the federal government has at the moment to be put into the creative industry to boost it up. All right, so they are doing a lot to collaborate with creatives, with comedians, musicians, actors. So they're giving out a lot. I think yesterday I saw on his page where he posted a couple of events lined up this December that his office will be sponsoring. Yes. So I think if we're able to key into that as a body, we'll be able to get more. Right now they're doing it on individual basis. Do you understand? For instance, he might not know me, he might know this person, he might know this person, and probably from what he knows, he can say, okay, I will sponsor you. Then when I come for sponsorship, they say, sorry. But if we go as a body,
everybody benefits.
Everybody benefits.
Now let's talk about that in perspective of what Alibaba did and the directorate he came up with. It's been some years now, but he's been able to give platform to comedians through his program Alibaba Spontaneity, where comedians have won vehicles and some cash sums and have a year where they get stages to perform on. It's important that Lagos continues to come up in the mention, but Abuja is another vibrant city where many are talking about the potentials to be sort of another Lagos in the entertainment space. Would you say that Abuja has not caught on to the Lagos fever and been able to create that atmosphere with someone like an Alibaba, but in Abuja, we have other comedians, the real worry picking, one of them who probably wields as much influence in doing this. Has there been a consensus to have like minds replicate the atmosphere that we have in Lagos here in Abuja?
Okay, so basically, we have a lot of guys, comedians that are doing really very well. Not just in Abuja, their names, have gone
I've transcended the
yeah,
globe.
across the country and globally, but the problem we have is still the issue of collaboration,
So there's a certain
networking,
rivalry.
synergy.
Is there competition between one another?
Basically, it's everywhere, not just Abuja. Do you understand? But I'm speaking to you now from the angle of the secretary of Abuja Body of Comedians. We're trying to pull things together, to pull ourselves together, because together we can do more.
Yeah.
But the way the industry is going and social media, you understand, everybody just feels that because I'm influential on social media, do you understand, I can do it myself without bringing. So everybody is running their individual race, and it's not actually helping us in Abuja. If you look at it very well, Abuja actually has the potential. Abuja comedians are very funny. Do you understand? If you are a comedian in Abuja, you can be funny anywhere in the world.
Why is that so?
Yeah, because Abuja is a typical city. Lagos is a bubbling and a commercial city. A lot is happening in Lagos. They just want to party. But Abuja is quite a reserved city.
And it takes a lot of effort to make people
Yes,
laugh.
to make people laugh in Abuja. I'm telling you the truth. Do you understand? Because every little event that you go to, you see a senator, you see a minister and all that. So you really need to prepare. So if you're able to make senators, ministers, and all that to laugh in Abuja, you should be able to make anybody laugh in Abuja. There are a lot of comedians that are very funny outside Abuja. When they come into Abuja, it becomes so difficult. Yeah, the struggle, and they are wondering what's happening. Do you understand? Because the Abuja audience, there are certain times that some of them will even come on stage. They will have to beg the Abuja audience that I don't hear about now. I beg, Mona, help me. Do you understand?
As part of the comic act.
Yeah, and these are guys that are being celebrated all over. So Abuja is quite a reserved city. So if you're good as a comedian in Abuja, and if you watch very well, the Lagos guys are coming in seriously.
They're hosting many shows.
This year I can count as much as eight of them that have come into Abuja to host their own shows, and next year is going to be they are going to come more. Do you understand?
So what does this do for comedians in shaping their crafts? Because I see under your portfolio there's also gospel artists in a way.
Yeah.
Would you say this is more of your niche in the comedy space, and how does that affect your marketability in the industry?
I won't say it affects. It only spurs us to do more. All right, because when we come to that point where we understand that this is no longer business as usual, all right, we'll tend to put in more. Like I did my event. I've not done an event for a very long time, for many years, but this year I decided to shoot, and in October I did one at the Abuja Continental Hotel, and I saw the success that's registered, and I told myself that, wow, if I can do this, so next year will come bigger and better. So sometimes you can underestimate yourself and think that, okay, you're not doing well because you're in Abuja, how do I? No. Do you understand? What you need to do is just to put in more effort and come out better. And I think that in Abuja, we're doing that, and we're going to get
Why
there.
I asked this question in terms of carving the niches, because the world is becoming a very sensitive space. You talked about Abuja crowd being very reserved, but on the global face now, comedy is received differently by different demographics of people.
Yeah.
And I would use the case study which we're very familiar with, the incidents between Chris Rock and actor Will Smith.
Okay.
Now, jokes are now being a subject of scrutiny. People say there is a line you don't cross. People are saying they're sexist jokes. They're jokes that you should not make in a crowd where they are minors. In selecting your jokes, how do you craft them? Do you craft them with this in the mindset that I don't want to be judged by the audience as being sexist, or I don't want someone to cross the stage and come slap me because my joke was perceived as insensitive? As comedians, is this be a back thought, or how do you prepare your materials before you hit the stage?
Yeah, basically, every stage, every audience, as a comedian, you need to understand where you're going to, and that will help you censor some of the things that you have to say. I use an example of Bovey. You understand? Bovey will tell you before his show. In fact, there's one he just did recently. Was it last week or last Sunday? He told them that if you're coming with someone that's not your wife, you understand, be mindful, because the cameras are going to palm through. So so you should be confident of who you're coming with. And he always makes it clear that he doesn't do show for minors.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So that will set your mind. And when he's preparing his materials, he knows what areas to dive into.
Yeah.
So every comedian, if you're going for a government function to perform as a comedian, you're going for a corporate function to perform as a comedian, and then generally in a comedy show, you have mixed audience. So you should be able to position your mind on what to do. I think a couple of my colleagues have been embarrassed, a few times here and there, because they went to certain stage and then cracked certain jokes that did not align with that kind of settings and audience. Do you understand? So as a comedian, when you're crafting your lines, when you're crafting your thoughts, you should craft it in line with where you're going to and the kind of people
that
you're meeting there. For instance, if you're going up north, to crack jokes, Sokoto, Kano, and all that, you should be mindful of some of the things that you're saying. If you're a Lagos comedian and you're going up north, you should be mindful. You understand of the
and
things
if you're a
saying.
northern comedian going to
Lagos, all right. So you should understand the demography of the Nigerian space, all right. So we travel everywhere. We go to different states and all that to crack jokes. So if I'm traveling to a certain place, I will draw my line and understand the things that I need to say and the things I would not to say.
Do you tell your jokes to your friends and close associates just to rate how funny you are before you try them?
From my house, my wife.
Well, do you care sharing some jokes? Say I believe. Well, it wouldn't hurt to have a really good laugh on it to wrap up the Friday show now, Bito. Don't you think so? All right. The stage is yours.
You know some of the things that the white man taught us is English language. All right. So, but I've been able to do some experiment, and I discovered that some of the things that the white man taught us is not true. For instance, the white man taught us that if you are from America, they call you an American. If you are from Ghana, they call you Ghanaian. If you are from Nigeria, they call you Nigerian. Now, I can see that you're an Igbo man. Yeah. So if you are from Abia State, what do we call you?
Abiaria. Is it Abiaria?
I can see that you're a Yoruba man. So if you are from Abeokuta, what do we call you? Abeokutian. Do you understand? Now, what if you're from the city that is called Jericho? What do we call you?
Jericho.
So how many liters? 60 liters, 40 liters?
It depends on how big you are.
Abi?
And I think Bito should be about 12 liters. I would be 8 liters.
And you see, the white man taught us that if you're preparing soup and there's too much pepper, you say the soup is peppery, right? Or pepperish. If you're preparing tea, there's too much sugar, you say it's sugary. If you're preparing soup, there's too much water, you say it's watery. So what if you're preparing that soup and there's too much Maggi? What do you now say?
Margaret. Oh, you know what? Carry on. Let's wrap up this conversation. That was a good one. You also seem to have a very good command of English language. Better than the whites that you mentioned in your comment.
Yeah, you see in comedy actually. We have different kind of comedians. I'm a more corporate comedian. All right, I do corporate events, I do social events and all that. You understand? So some comedians have good command in English. You know them in Nigeria. So you can actually host an event and also crack jokes. All right. So you do two services in one. So if you are inviting a Mr. Steve, you should know that you have a comedian and also a good orator. So basically, that's what we do.
All right. now, in terms of mentorship, coming up, when did you decide that this would be a space you want to play in?
Yeah.
Did you have someone teach you the ropes?
Yeah, I did.
And at what point did you feel like you could do without having to tail your mentor? Because we see in the industry there's a habit of persons tailing their mentors, they're always standing behind them. I remember, and I like to use case scenarios. I remember when there was a little bit of fallout between Basketmouth and AY.
Okay.
Over some unpaid debt. Because another angle we're going to be talking about shortly is remuneration. But let's begin with mentorship, having this case study in mind so that as you're answering the question, be getting ready for that remuneration. Because I'm going to ask, were you settled? Did you have a grievance in that perspective? I see you laughing already.
Okay, so I'll not want to. Should I mention names?
Feel free to mention names. There's a no holds back.
Anyway, you see, I started comedy way back in school, right? As a student, I like speaking to people and all that. So you can see my background there. like my school where I studied, there were a lot of cultism in the school, and I took it upon myself to give orientation to incoming students when I was in second year. So when I get to a class, then the classes are usually very rowdy, you understand everybody and all that. So you need to call their attention. So how do you call their attention to say what you have to say? I just get on a desk and then I start telling funny stories, and then suddenly the class is quiet, and then I pass across my message. So I kept doing that, and before you know, they started inviting me for picnic, for hostel events and all that, birthday parties, small birthday parties here and there. And then I saw Godons. I've seen them. You know, Godons had a group, they were singing before they got into comedy, and before he got into comedy and all that. And I was also singing at the time, you know. So I loved the way I was in Warri, then they were also in Warri. So I had a group that sings just like them. So Godons was the funny one in that group. So before they sing, he would just come crack a few jokes and all that. So I was also doing that with my group.
Yeah.
Before we sing, I would just say some funny lines and all that, and then we sing. So I was like, okay, since we're patterning ourselves according to what these guys are doing, they call them DCM voice then, they call my group Echoes of Praise. So why not? So when I saw Godon shoot out from the group and started doing mainstream comedy, because then they were inviting them as a group to Night of 1,000 Laughs. But before you know what's happening, I think RMD was doing one event to Made in Warri. You know, they were inviting them as a group. Before you know, they left the two and they were like, okay, since this guy is giving us what we want, so let's get him on board. That was how they started inviting Godons, and Godon started doing his thing. And then because he's a church boy, he was going from church to church. At the time, I was in House on the Rock. So they do bring him then. And I just met him and I told him that, boss, I like the way you do stuff and I like to pattern myself. I want you to mentor me. And that was how we met, and then we started the journey. Yeah.
And do you have any comedians, budding comedians that are under you, considering the fact that you were privileged to have Godons mentor you through the world of comedy? Do you have other young people under you that you're also mentoring?
Of course I do.
Do you care to give us like a figure? Is there a specific figure that
they should be up to 5, and there are a lot of mentors that are doing very well in the industry. You know, my name is not like up there, but there are a lot of them that I've mentored, you know, that are doing very well.
That have, you know,
we have the whale mouths, we have the young chief, and a couple of others that are doing really very well in the industry right now. So basically, what I'm trying to do right now, whether close or far, I'm trying to mentor young ones. My next event now, I'm going to be bringing budding talents, do you understand, on stage that will come and do their thing, and then from there we take it up.
To sort of introduce them into
the comedy world.
Now back to that case scenario, because in mentorship and all this, and especially when you become colleagues or probably even are par with each other, when it comes to support, you have a show, I invite you, I have a show, I invite you. Most times there's an unspoken rule of how much is involved in remuneration.
Yeah.
But until we saw the incidents between Basket Mount and AY, until date, there still talks about how much is owed who wasn't paid what from the sum of money.
Yeah.
How do we resolve issues and disputes like this when it comes to financial remunerations and the issues that make certain friends who formed bonds that brought their career alive fall apart?
Yeah. Basically, I did not have that issue with my my mentor. All right. There are a couple of, you know, when you're under mentorship, all right, you should understand that there are certain sacrifices that you make. And I can tell you that I made major sacrifices for the one I called my mentor, all right? So I might not know how that AY and Basket Mouse story is not entirely like a mentorship, like someone is mentoring someone, is more like a colleague. Yes. You understand that asks another colleague to go help him cover up for an event. So that was how that story came about. So today, today is actually made open right there. For instance, when you invite me as a colleague, I don't tell you how much you pay me, but I'll just tell you, bro, you know how things be now. So
you're supposed to do
yes,
something.
you go do something. Or even within Abuja here, all right, we invite each other, and at the end of the day, we also and now fuel, all right. Somebody drives to your show, you should be able to say, I mean, take this for fuel. It's something that is good. But sometimes we pay sacrifices for each other. There are certain people that have done stuff for when they were doing their shows, and then probably I invite them for my show. They can't come and say, Mr. Steve, how far now? We don't perform finish, how far? No, because they know what I did for them, and also, so it's reciprocation. You know, you reciprocate what you did for the person. So that doesn't take out the place. For instance, if I'm traveling to a colleague's show outside Abuja, you should be able to take care of my logistics and every other thing. And then at the end of the day, you should be able to say, take this for, you know, the sacrifice. You know, so what we do basically is we don't mention amounts for each other, but you should be able to know what to do per time.
It's more of an
gentlemanly agreement.
Exactly. So, but if that understanding is not there, that's where you see people having certain issues. But there's certain cases that are outside that. For instance, if I have someone that is doing an event and say, okay, Mr. Steve, I need you to get me this your colleague and that your colleague, you know, because you're close to them, you should be able to have a negotiation. So I negotiate with you as my colleague, and I tell you that, look, this is what is involved. Are you good? So that case now is not my show. I'm bringing you on board for an event. Do you understand? So I should be able to negotiate with you based on the agreement I have with the client. All right. So when you come in, I tell you this is what it entails. So at the end of the day, we're good. So no issues.
Let's still talk about remuneration in terms of, you know, for comedians. People, it's no news that musicians make most of the money in the entertainment industry. More than actors, more than most comedians, more than, you know, photographers, videographers, anything, name it. Why do you think that in your industry, the comic industry, it appears that not really much has been done to boost up the amount of money comedians charge to perform on stage?
Yeah. We'll actually work, I mean, we're working on that. And that thing is relative, all right? There are a couple of comedians that you can't even call them if you don't have certain budgets. Some of them have made theirs open. Do you understand? I don't start mentioning names. They've made theirs open. So you can't even mention their name if you don't have certain budgets in mind. All right? So we're still growing. We're still working. And there's a way this thing works sometimes. You know, people tend to misunderstand the fact that everyone is unique in their giftings. All right? So it depends on the value that you decide to place on what you have. Do you understand? Someone might call me and I give the person my fee, and the person will think and say, okay, let me call this other person. So it depends on the value that you now place on your, because when that person calls me and I give the person my fee, the person will say, we cannot. I say, well, that's what I charge.
Do you care to let us in on how much you charge per show, depending on the show?
Yeah, I do 500. Sometimes
just a range. Give us a range
between 300-500.
Okay, per show to perform for maybe 10 minutes.
To perform. And sometimes I do more.
Okay.
Now, you had earlier talked about the fact that we're amongst the biggest in Africa, and now we're seeing an appeal amongst East African nations, particularly. A set of comedians have made it an annual feature to tour East African countries, Uganda and whatnot, and it seems as though they have a certain liking for Nigerian comedians. I don't know if you're privy to why this is so, and is this collaboration one that was genuinely crafted, or where is it taking the comedy space within Africa as a continent?
Next year, I'm even planning to visit East Africa. It's part of my plans next year. All right, I've been to South Africa, I've been to a couple of countries, you know. So, but next year, I want to visit East Africa because what happens is most of the comedians that you've heard their names in East Africa, Uganda, and all that, most of them came on board. Even Cameroon, there's one guy, they call him or something pastor.
Yeah.
You know.
In Cameroon?
When I went to Cameroon, the guy is very big. Do you understand? But when he came to Nigeria, you know, he came in like
an upcoming
comedian. Do you understand? And a few comedians started giving him stage in Lagos. Then from there he got to AY Life, and then from there he got to House on the Rock, and then he got to The Experience. I think he was in The Experience last year. So, and that gave him a major boost in his country. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So why not? So why not? They've seen that Nigeria is such a big economy when it comes to the entertainment industry. So every comedian within the African space want to have a taste of Nigeria and the taste of entertainment in Nigeria, because they know that once they get on stages in Nigeria. In fact, what happened in Abuja, was it last year, the last 2 years, when he came for AY Live, that guy I'll tell you about, you know, it came to the point that the show was so, the bill was so tight. AY had to bring him up with like 3 other persons. So just do 1 minute
at the same time.
Do you understand? This is someone that is being, you know, celebrated, but he counted it as an opportunity for him
to sell himself.
That, man, I performed in Abuja. Do you understand? I performed in Abuja, I performed in Lagos, Nigeria, and all that. So basically, that collaboration is very important, and I think that those coasts or those countries are opened up for more collaboration, and I personally intend to explore that.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, in keeping with this development, I asked because it's more like a progression. Now we're seeing some, what I call uncharted waters, with comedians in the likes of Josh Too Funny.
Okay.
Now Josh is someone who has embodied part of what you do. He has also carved gospel as a niche. He came up with the feminine character that a lot of people fell in love with. He's been able to come up with trends that have been copied globally. The Don't Leave Me challenge. But it was more shocking for everyone when he got the invitation to America's Got Talent. And as much as some people criticized his performance there, I'd like to get your perspective of this evolution using Josh Too Funny.
Wow. You know, when I saw him on that stage, you know, sometimes we really underestimate our talents and what we have in Nigeria. When I saw him on that stage, I mean, Josh, with that he did, you know, I felt that when he comes back to Nigeria, you know, he will be positioned at certain level. Because for me, I feel that, like, I keep coming back to the issue of collaboration. Him being invited to American Got Talent, which means that he now has a network that I feel that every other comedian that had that kind of inspiration or have that kind of you know, you have that kind of drive to move to that platform, all right, you should be able to key into what he just did. All right, key into what he just did and see how you can also make progression. But what happened when he came back? When he came back, everybody was like, so waiting on, you know, all those kind of stuff. I don't know whether it's part of jealousy or I don't know. Do you understand? The guy came back and everybody did as if, you know, nothing happened or he didn't get. I mean, that is massive.
To be on such a huge
that
global
is
stage.
Massive. That's massive now. That's massive. Do you understand? Even though the videos went viral and all that, but that was where it ended. The guy just came back and everybody felt, no man, let's just get.
It's like we don't celebrate our own enough.
You know, we need to celebrate our own enough. More. There are a lot that Nigerians are achieving out there in the entertainment space. We need to celebrate them.
Now let's talk about portraying the image of Nigeria on the global scene, especially by individuals on X, a very notorious app. If you will agree with me that Nigerians on X sometimes can be a little bit unhinged when it comes to talking down on Nigeria internationally. How do we curtail this to ensure that our people talk good about us and not necessarily drag our name in the mud? Much like the incident that happened with Netflix, where reports say that Nigerians went on the Netflix platform calling Netflix names, saying some inflammatory statements and all that, and now Netflix is threatening not to pull out.
Okay, I'm not particularly a fan of the X platform.
Yeah,
you understand. So because to save my mental health.
well, it's the same thing we are saying, I guess.
You know, so a lot of crazy things happening around there, but it still boils down to the fact that as Nigerians, we should be able to understand that there are certain limits that we can go with certain trends that are happening. You understand? We pick people that are making us proud, that are building our image as a country out there. We pick them and we decide to just rubbish them because because we're on X and all that. You understand? So as Nigerians, as young people, I mean, because most of these things happen among young peoples, among entertainment lovers. So by the time you pull that person down and then bring down his image, all right? Yeah, what happens next? Do you understand? What do you stand to benefit? There are a lot of musicians today, Nigerian musicians that you know went down because of the way people came into their matter and then talked down on them. And those guys, you know, a lot of them, we don't hear their names again.
Almost like a journey of no return.
Do you understand? We don't hear their names again. And this is as a result of some of the statements, some of the things that we put out there, you understand, representing the images of Nigerian entertainment. We should do more. We should do better. We should do better. And I think that the more we try to create our image with what we say on all these social media platforms, the more it's going to help us to create our images out there. Because people watch, people see, people read what we say and all that. Some of them might not know the true story of what you're saying there. They might not know the true meaning of what you're saying there. But they will just take it just the way. And this thing can affect us, you know, directly or indirectly. You that is saying it on X, you know, one of your family member might be an artist, might be an entertainer, and you're saying all these things to just pull someone down. You don't know that it's affecting, you know, your friend,
you know,
your brother.
Considering the fact that the entire entertainment industry
rolls within a space.
Exactly, has some sort of connection.
Rolls within a space. So when you're saying that about a musician, a comedian, an actor, and all that, you know, and you feel that, okay, you're just there, well, me, I don't. It might be affecting you directly or indirectly, because one of the people or the group of people that have really put our image out there are entertainers. Yes, entertainers, actors, musicians, comedians. They've put the image of Nigeria, they've raised the bar for the image of Nigeria out there. You understand? So people tend to respect Nigeria because of the enormous talents that we have here. The enormous talents that we have here. So if we're complaining every day that the government is not working, and then the talents that are helping to shape the image of Nigeria, we're pulling them down, what gain do we have?
Now, in balancing the conversation, we're in a world where we talk gender equality and gender equity a lot, and the comedy space in Nigeria is also one that has embodied such a global conversation. We can call all the names of some of the comedians that are making the country proud, but also know that they're comedians who are also doing well in the space. But for them, one of the things they use to their credit is the evolution towards putting it out on streaming platforms. A lot of them have, despite having the ability to do stand-up, inculcated having spaces online in which they do what they're doing. Quite recently, there's also been the talk about having to have some protection for them owing to the age they come into that space. There's been the Mark Angel and the young girl in question who the story went viral about some misgivings in her upbringing. Whilst that's the case on the one hand, there's been the Jolita girl who is called the AI girl and her dealings with a certain Pella on TikTok. But using these two case scenarios, how do we protect the girl child who is aspiring to come into the comedy space and make sure that her rights are not infringed upon?
Well, it all boils down to the issue that we just discussed earlier, mentorship. You know, I usually tell talents because at the point I was one of the directors of the School of Art and Entertainment at the National Youth Summit that we used to hold in Abuja many years back at the International Conference Center. So what we tell talents, especially now that social media has, you know, it's a challenge. It's a challenge because right now the young ones just feel like, even the females, you know, because I have talent, I can do anything I want to do. I can put out anything I want to put out there. It doesn't concern anybody. It's me. It's my talent. It's what I want to do and all. Even apart from the females, even the young boys, the 15, 14, years, 16 years old guys that are doing well on the social media space. You know, so
They
but
feel
you
like
must,
they have gotten to a
you
certain level
must,
of
you
liberty.
you must, because there's a certain level that you get to, just one mistake, two mistakes. This same social media
Will bring you down.
that brought you to that level, it will bring you down. It will bring you down. Do you understand? And coupled with the fact that you're very young, you might not be able to hold the pressure. Because there's a lot of pressure out there. You understand? There's a lot of pressure out there. So for the females that are coming up, I think that they need close mentorship. And that can also work if we have females that are already established, female actors, female comedians that are also established, to look out for these young ones and see how they can mentor them, to give them direction in whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
So they don't make mistakes that would jeopardize their talent and then their fame, their rising fame. All right. So basically, I feel it all boils down to the issue of mentorship, because I'm sure that there's someone that discovered them at a point.
Like
and
in
then,
Emanuela's case, it was
like
Mark
Emmanuel,
Angel.
it was Mark Angel. But this other girl, I don't really. We just saw her
On TikTok.
Okay, it was TikTok and all that. So we just saw her come up. So we don't really know who she's speaking with, who is speaking with her, who is mentoring her, who is directing her, you know, and stuff like that. So by the time we begin to see more of this, and I know that there are a lot of women out there, there are a lot of individuals that are into this field of, you know, mentoring budding talents, all right? And so that as you're growing in skill, in talent, you can also grow in character.
Yeah.
Do you understand? And then create a balance so that you don't make mistakes that will just pull you down.
Well, let's talk about the future of the entertainment industry, especially with regards to your own section, which is the comedy industry. What is your projection in the next decade or more for the entertainment industry? Are comedians going to be as valued in the future as musicians are now? Are they going to be paid more in the future? Just tell us your projections.
Heavily valued, because at the moment when comedy started, we only see the likes of the 9,000 Laugh and all that. So with evolution and all that, we started seeing the AY Lives, we started seeing, you know, the Basket Mouth Uncensored and a couple of events. And today now, today we have a lot of comedians that can hold their own.
Their own shows.
You might not even the funny thing is that you might not know them, but these guys are shutting down venues. You know, recently I went to one of my friends' event in Port Harcourt. All right, there's this popular venue in Port Harcourt. They call it Aztec Arco and all that. The guy shut down that, as in it was. I was shocked, and I came to Abuja and I asked someone, "Do you know this comedian?" The person said, "No, I don't know this comedian." Do you understand? So where we are now, it's not an issue of name. Okay, this person has name. No, we're coming to the age in the next couple of years where it's not going to be about name. It's going to be about content. It's going to be about what are you able to put together. What influence are you able to weigh in your sphere, in your sphere? There are a lot of comedians that you don't know about that are doing very well. Some of them even have more money than some of the names that you're hearing that are very popular. Do you understand?
Yes.
Because they hold it down in whatever. Nigeria is such a vast country. So in the next couple of years, you'll see a lot of mind-blowing stuff.
Yes.
There are a couple of guys, even in Abuja here, that are shutting down venues. You don't know them. You might not know their names. When they call their names, you might not know their names anywhere. So in a couple of years, you know, we're going to see the value of the comedy space and the comedy industry coming to a major break.
Now in closing, one last question, and in your last comments, names was quite the recurrent word. Trademarks in the industry. I know with Josh, he looked to trademark "Don't Leave Me," especially when the ownership was debated. Going forward, are comedians conscious about intellectual property and having legal professionals to help, you know, kind of protect some of the jokes that took you pains to curate so that you own it, and then in the case where someone tells your joke on a platform where it's monetized like YouTube, you can file for rights claims and get some compensation in that regard?
Okay, I don't think that we've come to that level at the moment. We've not. I think some of the guys that are taking it a little bit serious are the guys that create contents and all that. They try to trademark some of their lines and acronyms and all that. So, but I think we need to do more. We need to do more on that. I've had a situation where two people were answering almost the same name in this Abuja. One said, I've started so many years ago. Well, the other one just came with an evidence of him
trademarking the name.
The name. And this other guy has not. I told the guy, slow down. No, you understand? Don't argue too much with this guy, because the guy just shared it with me. He said, tell this guy, I've trademarked. So it tells you the importance. I personally have lost, I've been in the industry for quite some time, I started performing the Night of 1,000 Laugh in 2009. That was my first Night of 1,000 Laugh. So I've been around, and a lot of my jokes are out there, but people don't know that I own this joke, except you go on YouTube
and then watch
watch those Night of 1,000 Laughs, Stand Up Nigeria, and all that, and you see some of those jokes. So me, I don't make effort in trying to argue with people that this is my joke. Everybody say, who get this joke, who has this joke, and all that. No, because I did not put a trademark on it.
On the jokes.
On the jokes. I did not do anything legal on that. So you can't hold anyone. And a lot of people have fallen victim of that. So that's why I said we're still growing in that direction. And I hope that with time we'll
get
value
there.
our
Well,
intellectual.
Mr. Steve, we must thank you for your time on the program this morning. We do appreciate the jokes you shared with us earlier. I hope we do have the rights to replay it without having to.
Of course, it's my joke. What I shared with you is my joke. Ask anybody, they will tell you.
Right. I believe